There you are. How are you doing?
I'm okay.
Oh, thank you so much for joining us. It is a huge honor to talk to you today.
My pleasure.
Thanks a lot, man. Let me clarify something. Your first name is pronounced Per, isn't it? Not Pa.
Per,
isn't it?
Oh, okay. I'm so sorry. I've been pronouncing it wrong this whole time. I do apologize.
No, it's okay.
Perfect, man. Dude, thank you so much for responding to us. It's really like a pleasure to have you on the show. I live in Belgium. I've been living in Brussels the last 13 years.
Okay.
I know that you're a legend here, having played 13 years for Anderlecht. I unfortunately never got to see you play here, but I did as an Olympiacos fan. So my name's Konstantin. I'm born in the UK, Olympiacos fan. My family's Greek. Ari is in the States, in Maryland.
Okay.
So we're four people. One of us is in Canada, one is in the States, one is in Geneva in Switzerland, and I'm in Belgium. So
his status is a little bit amazing by Greek supporters. I mean, in every team, there's always supporters everywhere where you're going.
Yep.
That's very amazing, I have to say. If you so go and play in Sweden, you have Greek supporters. It is like that. You have Greek people everywhere.
This is true.
Somebody told me that the third biggest city in the world, Greek city, is Melbourne.
Yeah, it's true.
Yes, it's huge.
So I mean, there's Greek people everywhere.
This is true.
Yeah. We find our way everywhere. That's for sure. We're all over the place.
Per, I have to give you warm regards from Stelios Giannakopoulos.
Stelios,
who's a good friend, and we had him on the show about a month or two ago. I spoke with him a little bit earlier, and I told him that we're going to be having you on the show today, and he sends you his best. Warm regards to you and your family.
Yeah, send him my regards also. It's a long time since I talked to him. It's many years ago. It's you can't have contact with everyone.
This is true.
It's and also you get older. You know, it's 20 years ago nearly. I played over there. We start to get old. My generation starts to get very old. So.
All of us are starting to get old. Actually, the other two that are not here with us today, I think they're 10 years younger than us, huh? So
they're in their mid-20s. So I just turned 31. They're a few years younger than me. They were really young back then. So they were toddlers.
They were still in their diapers. I'm 35.
Then he was still young when I was playing there. So you know, time goes quick. It goes very quick.
And it was a lot more difficult to watch the games back then too. I was in middle school or high school, like upper school here, we call it.
Yeah.
And I remember I always used to have to go. My grandfather had the antenna satellite package. So I had to go to his house to watch the games all the time.
Yeah, I remember it because I had the same antenna to have some Swedish TV when I was in Athens.
Yeah.
It was exactly the same, and it was so difficult with everything, and even with the computer and internet was a big problem.
DSL? No, it's not like today, man.
Not at all.
With a wide modem connection, my God.
Yeah, it's so easy. You can watch everything now if you want to do it.
I tell you what, a funny story. The 3-0 Rizoupoli game.
Yeah.
Our satellite was broken. And I had to find a dodgy site, and I watched it in my small bedroom in London with my father and one of my father's friends, and the bit frame was all, just crap, and that game was crazy, wasn't it? With all the confetti at the beginning and all the atmosphere around it.
It was I think was one of the hysterical game I ever played, because you played in Rizoupoli, and it takes 20,000 people.
Yeah.
And we heard before the game, because it was decisive of the championship, because Panathinaikos was leading in front of us, and we had to win 2-0 or something, because we lost the first game in Panathinaikos. And there was demands for 200,000 tickets or something before the game. It was crazy. It was really crazy. And so we were all motivated. My father was on the game, I remember.
Wow.
And we came to the stadium, and as I told you, it was 20,000 people. I think it was 6,000 or 8,000 policemen on the game.
I believe it.
It was unbelievable. And you know, it was confetti, it was firecrackers, it was everything on it. And I think that the players of Panathinaikos were so impressed by the atmosphere, even in a small stadium, that, you know, we had already won the game before it started. Honestly, I believe so. Even that we did a very good game. That for sure, we win 3-0. It could have been more, but it was a real fantastic game. And if it should have been playing in the big Athens Stadium, then it should be crazy. It should explode everything.
Absolutely. Well, Per, we're going to go ahead and get started. Just a couple of things. Now, we're going to be directing, obviously, the questions at you, so you don't really have to worry about this part. But if you see these thumbs up, this is really for Costa and I, just to, that way we know if somebody is jumping in, getting to ask a question. But same thing, if we're saying something and you have a thought or you have a comment about it, just go ahead. You can put that thumbs up, and then, you know, we'll know you have something to say. But most of what we're doing is obviously going to be directed to you anyway. We're going to be asking you questions. We've got we've got some audience questions as well. You know, whatever we have time for with you. I don't want to take up all your time. Obviously, I know it's late there. You know, we'll ask, and then everything we tell all of the guests that we have. If there's a question you're not comfortable answering, just tell us, move on, and then we'll just go to the next question.
I may drink it like that. That's okay.
No, yeah, whatever you want. It's completely up to you. We'll probably do the same during as well. Okay. So we'll go ahead and get started, I guess.
Yeah, perfect.
All right, Costa. We'll start in 3, 2, 1. And now we have our special guest. It took about a week, or actually, no, it was about a few days of guessing, but everybody did eventually get it when Costa put the graphic up. We have Per Zetterberg here, our special guest. Per, thank you so much for joining. It is an honor to have you here and to discuss football with you, let alone Olympiacos football. Thank you again for joining us. How are you doing tonight?
Hello. Yeah, I'm doing great. Getting older, but I'm doing great. I'm very happy to be here, and I was very happy when you asked me to be part of this show.
Well, we love to get feedback. We love to hear from former players of Olympiacos. The audience loves to hear what you thought when you were playing for Olympiacos, what it felt like to play, especially with your teammates, what the atmosphere felt like. But before we get started with that, we wanted to start off with some background about you. More so, how did you get started playing football?
I started to play football when I was 6 years old in a small team here in Sweden where I'm living now, who played at that time in third division. If you think that Olympiacos is first division, they have second, they have third division. And there I reached the first team of them when I was 15. I played a tournament with the national team of the youth in Sweden that you play every year in one of the Nordic countries. And that year it was in Denmark. I did a very good tournament over there, and I was a scout from Anderlecht who was over there. So they asked me to come to their club, Anderlecht, when I was 16. So when I was 16, I went to Anderlecht to play in the youth teams over there. I played 2 years in the youth teams, and then when I was 18, I went up to the first team. And that's the start of my career, really. And after that, it went in one direction, that I came in the first team when I was 18. I was not a regular playing in the first team, but because of that time, the late 80s, beginning of the 90s, Anderlecht was one of the big teams in Europe. You know, they were always in semi-final, always in the finals of the European Cup. So that was really one of the best teams in Europe at that time. It was very difficult to take a place. So they rented me to Charleroi for 2 years when I was young because I needed to have some playing experience. So I played there for 2 years, and after that I came back to Anderlecht, where I had a starting place from '93. You can say.
Per, you played for Anderlecht for, I think, all in all 13 years, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, many years, many years.
I think it's 13 years at Anderlecht, and I think it's safe to say you're a legend in Anderlecht. And my question is the following: you've obviously been around Belgian football for such a long time.
Yeah.
Did you ever expect the level of the players coming out of Belgium and looking at the Belgian national team today? Did you ever expect the country's football product to explode in these previous years the way it has done?
You know, Belgium had difficulties. You know, they had a very good generation when I was young. When I came there at 16, you know, there were many good players at that time. And then they had some difficult years in the late 90s, beginning of 2000 and things like that. Then it started again. But that it became so good as they are now, I think that doesn't happen very often if you're not Germany or, you know, Spain or something like that. This is or Holland. But this is a big surprise. But, you know, there is more and more youngsters coming up from the Belgian football. One of the reasons I think that the Belgian clubs doesn't have so much money like the big competition has. So they are a little bit obliged to give them the chances. The young Belgian footballer have the chance now to play in the first teams of the Belgian competition. And that's one of the reasons why it's so many of them.
Per, I wanted to ask, you played, as long as I watched, you were always a midfielder.
Yeah.
Did you start out as a midfielder, or did you grow into that role elsewhere? When did you first know that you were a midfielder or an attacking oriented midfielder?
I started as a striker, really, when I was young. Yeah, when I was young, I scored a lot of goals. I was very egoist. I always want to score goals, really, since I was young. And one time when I was 11 or something, one of my friends told me that one of the midfielders in our team was injured. So he said, it's better that you go down in the midfield. No, we need you in the midfield. So at the age of 11, I started to play as a midfielder. So offensive midfield as a number 10, if you say like that. And since when I was 11, I've always been playing at that position. And that went on when I was also in Anderlecht, because there you have really, as a number 10, you are the key of the team, really. So everything has to go through you. And that suits my way of playing. I was that kind of a player who needed to have a free role to be the brain behind the team, if you say like that.
Oh, exactly. I agree with you 100%.
That's my way of playing. You know, I was not a defensive player. I couldn't run behind somebody and tackle and things like that. That was not my game. I could score goals and I can give assists. That was my game. It's like a quarterback, really, in American football.
You made the team tick. I never remember you being really an egotistical footballer at all. I just remember you being the guy pulling the strings.
Always... Yeah, I really love to give assists. Sometimes maybe too much instead of scoring goals. That was maybe the problem sometimes, but I love to give a good assist. I had so much fun doing it. I enjoyed so much to see somebody else being happy by scoring a goal and giving a nice assist. I love doing it.
You did, and you had some magical plays behind the defense. I remember quite a few of them. Now, one quick question I had before we continue is, with the way the number 10 position has kind of evolved in modern football.
Yeah.
What is your opinion on that? How much has that role changed from when you played as a number 10?
It has changed a lot, you know. The former number 10s like myself were, doesn't really exist in that way. You know, the number 10 from today is, or they're playing on the side by coming inside the field to try to find a free role, because you don't have the free role, because the game has become so physical, has become so quick. So you can't afford to have a player like me at the time. We're only doing one part of the thing, you know, playing offensively. You can't afford it, so they put them on the side. And also, if you see that the stopper in the team from today's football are really the players who have the most of the ball. If you think like Van Dijk in Liverpool, he's putting the strength everywhere where he is. So he's the playmaker from today's football. So it has changed so much. I don't think that I could have played the same way in today's football like I did 20 years ago. You have to change your way of playing, because the football is totally different.
I still think that in the modern game, you could play for sure. There's a player that you played with who, for me, is possibly one of the best footballers I've ever seen live. And that was Giovanni. Don't know if you guessed I was about to say that, but the things that he did with the football, I'd never seen before. I think the first footballer I fell in love with was Eric Cantona. And ever since I've been Olympiacos fan. My father took me to a stadium when I was 4 years old. I remember seeing this guy in '99 when he joined us, and the things he did with the football were just, nutmegging three players one after the other and then chipping people from 40 yards. Just unbelievable. He couldn't play in the modern game. Although I have seen some pictures and videos of him working out on Instagram, and I think he looks fitter now than he did when he was playing football. But
yeah, I'm agreeing with you. It's only my way of saying that the way that we were playing at that time is totally different than now. If you know that the physical level and the physical training that I have now, and all the programs and all the things that I had, should have helped our game also in today's football. But maybe that we had to play in a different way than we did at that time, because the football is so much physical and so much quicker than at that time. That doesn't mean that the football is better today than it was before. It's not. That's what I'm saying. But I say that the players are physical stronger in today's football than we maybe were at that time. It's the only thing I'm saying.
I don't know how much you follow or watch the team recently, but we have a number 10 in our team, Costas Fortounis. He's been at the club for a while. He's actually a product of our youth academy. He spent some time in Germany before coming back, and now he's really, the guy that makes things tick. And for a lot of years, he was criticized as being physically too weak, mentally too weak, not good enough to be captain, or didn't have the mental capability to be captain. And the last couple of years, he's really come into his own. I don't know if you've watched many of our games, or if you have an opinion on him.
I only see, in Champions League and things like that. It's the only thing. And I'm still in contact with Karambu. He's still on every game. He's sitting on the bench, so he's still a very good friend of mine. So I still talk to him. So I know a little bit about what happens in Olympiacos. But I can't say on players because I don't follow it so much. I know that they have a very good team, that they are, I think, 12 points ahead of AEK or something, depending if AEK win today or yesterday, I don't know. So Olympiacos is still, it's a special thing to play in Olympiacos, especially if you see in today's football, you're going to get criticized if you play bad.
Yes.
It is like that. You play in a big club, you play in the biggest club in Greece, who has supporters everywhere, and they expect always the best of you. And when you don't do it, okay, you're going to get criticized. But I'm sure that every player who plays in Olympiacos has something in themselves to do it. Some will succeed because the pressure is there. Some can't cope with it. That's normal. And then you have the pressure in it. I can only say that Fortounis, I had difficulties in the beginning with all the pressure there was. It was difficult. I had to say it myself. But when you learn it, you come into it and you understand how the players want to play and how the supporters want you to play and things like that. And when all settles and when you feel yourself at home, then your real you is gonna show it, and he is showing that now, and that's, I think, is totally normal from player to player.
I'm not gonna lie, when you arrived, it didn't seem like you were struggling when you first came in. It seemed like you were made to play in Greece.
Yeah, in the first couple of months, yeah, we had Matsourakis as a trainer at that time.
Yeah.
And it started very well, and then he was fired because we had some bad results. And he was fired, and then you have to say that Niniades started to play very well.
Yeah.
He played better than I did. And then you lose confidence, and that didn't happen in Anderlecht. And I was sitting on the bench, and that was something that you're not used to do, and you didn't play like you wanted to do, and you lose confidence, and it worked downhill, if you want to say. And in the end, was playing better, and I was playing worse, and it was a difficult period. And it was normal that you start to get criticized and things like that, and it was difficult. But I'm happy that I turned that around and that I ended in a good way instead of started in a good way and ended in a bad way. Because then maybe, the supporters and things like that, when I left, they have a good remembering by the way that I was playing. I think so.
I think I mean, obviously we've transitioned into your time at Olympiacos already, and I think I remember you having some difficulties with Lemonis as a coach, or at least maybe when Lemonis came in. I think the second season we had Manchester United in our Champions League group, and I remember there was something going on with you, and you didn't seem at your best at the time. So I was actually going to ask you, like, how was your your transition and how long it took you to fully adjust, and like you said, really get to know the expectations of the club, the pressure, how the team plays, what the fans expect, and the pressure which you talked about already. But before we dive into all of that a little bit more, how did you end up in Greece after so many years at Anderlecht? How did it come about? Was it end of contract at Anderlecht?
No,
you had some offers.
I had many offers when I was there, but Anderlecht has been so many years my home, and I felt really well over there. And then it came and the offer from Olympiacos, and that was an offer that I have seen them play the year before in the Champions League and like that, where they did very well, and I heard about the players who was coming in, and I was tempted to do it because I was starting to get 30 years old. If I wanted to go somewhere at that time, that was the club who was the most interesting for me to go. As me and my wife, we love Greece from before to go on vacation, so we said it can be a nice adventure to go over there, and it's the biggest club in Greece. So I said it should be nice to try it out, and I don't regret it. I had 3 wonderful years, even that I had difficult years, 1.5, I can say 1.5 difficult years, but it ended in a fantastic way. So you forget quickly then the 1.5 years difficulties that you had.
You already discussed a little bit kind of the pressure that you felt when you came to Olympiacos. And I wanted to know if there was kind of a difference in the culture of football when you came to Greece compared to Belgium or Sweden when you initially played. Was there a big difference in the way the culture surrounding football in Greece compared to the other 2 countries you played in?
Yeah, it's a little bit, I'm the first. If I do a bad pass or anything, if I do a bad shot, I say sorry. It's my fault. No problem. Everyone do mistakes. Mistakes is a part of the game. And I was a little bit surprised in that in the beginning how to react, because Greek people are very proud people, you know. And in the beginning, you know, I still remember it like yesterday, and I still explain this. One of the first game that I was playing, I give a ball. I don't mention any names, because names I don't want to mention. But this is a little bit how Greek people see themselves. There's nothing bad on it. There's no critics, but this is a little bit like this. I give a pass to one of our players. He controlled the ball without anyone next to him. Very good. He controlled it. The field in Waka is perfect, you know, short grass, perfect. He gave a ball to one of the wing players. But at the time, he gave it too far, so it went out to the stadium. You know, it went too far. He looked to me and blamed that it was a bad pass of me. And I said, fucking hell, me? I gave you a good pass and you give a bad pass, and that's my fault. Come on. So I said, okay. They don't like to put the blame on themselves. They always try to put the blame on somebody else. And that's a little bit, the Greek culture, you know, in the beginning. So you have to get used to it.
Yeah.
You are laughing.
Because you're absolutely correct. That's why I'm laughing.
So that was a little bit of a surprise for me in the beginning, that I start to blame you, even that it's not your mistake. Because I'm used to say, okay, sorry, it's my mistake, it's no problem. Mistakes happen, but that was a big surprise in the beginning. So that's how it is.
You've given us a good one there. I'm having a riddle thinking about who that might have been.
Yeah,
I don't mention any names. I don't mention any names.
But you talked about the pressure before, and obviously, you know, in Greece at the time there were more sports newspapers than there are today. There's still a lot of sports papers, but there are, you know, less after the crisis hit. But how do you remember your first derby? I mean, this is obviously going back some years now, and I can't remember which one your first derby was, but I remember some really epic games. 3-0 at Rizoupoli. I think there was a fantastic game. I think you were involved in Olympiacos at the Olympic Stadium. 4-3 with an Alexandris scissor kick, I think, at the end to win it. I mean, what are your feelings like? Do you get goosebumps? I get goosebumps thinking about these games. Like, what was it like for you?
Well, those are fantastic, and I still remember those games. You know, those are historical games. There is some games that you still remember. You remember the 6-2 against Leverkusen, who was in the final in the Champions League just the year before. That was one, and you remember 3-0 in Rizoupoli. That game I remember the best because that was a historical game. We had to win those game, and with the atmosphere in a small stadium in Rizoupoli, and it was fantastic. And the 4-3 in Waka against a very good Ike at that time. You have Nikolaidis, you had Fiestas, I think, at that time, and had a very good team. So fantastic. But at that time, we had a fantastic team also in Olympiacos. Really, really good players.
You really did. That team was incredible.
Yeah, fantastic players. Djordjevic, for me, one of the best players I ever played with. Fantastic. Many good players. You had Karambeu, you had Giovanni, you had, name it. In every position, you have a good player.
Absolutely.
So it was really a great pleasure to have been playing with those players. And then afterwards, Greece won the European Championship.
Yeah, not too long after that.
So I mean, we had a quality side. It was really quality side.
I think people forget actually the level of the league back then. The teams were good. Like Ajax had a really good team. You mentioned some of their players like Tsartas, Demis Nikolaidis up front. that was a really good AEK team, and Panathinaikos had a good
Panathinaikos.
team as well.
Yeah.
They had a
Yeah.
good team. Maybe the northern teams weren't as good as they are now. Now the northern teams are basically trying to kick us off our mantle.
Yeah, Pauk was okay at that time. Not like they are now, but you know, Panathinaikos and AEK, they went really far in European Cups also. And you know, like I told you, 2004 it was when Greece won it in Portugal.
Yeah.
So I mean, many of the players were still playing in Greece, in the competition of Greece at that time. So the level of competition, like you were saying, was very high. And at that time, even the supporters from the visitor teams could go on the visitor games. So you had the Olympiacos supporters in Thessaloniki or in AEK games in Philadelphia, and so it was nice. The level was very good, I have to say, and it was fun to play. It was fun to play, honestly.
I have a personal question to ask you, and you don't have to answer this, but I think this is quite inspiring. And if I'm not mistaken, you have diabetes, right?
Yeah.
So I mean, as a footballer, how did this affect you as a professional?
It's not very common to have diabetes and play professional football, so I had to learn the way that suits me the best. You know, I had to treat myself, what I eat, take the rest when I need to take it, control my body all the time if my sugar level was high, low, whatever it was. So I had to try to be as professional as I could be, even more maybe than a normal person. But that was my way of living, and I was used to it, to do it in that way. At that time, it was more difficult than it is today, because today it's you have better insulin than at that time. You had you can control it much better today. So I don't. Okay, it's a disease. It's a serious disease, but I don't think that I could have done a career like I did if I didn't have it, because I don't know anything else. I got it when I was 19, so I've done all my career with diabetic. So
that says a lot about who you are, not just as a player, but as a person. And I mean, as a player, we always saw someone who was just 100% professional and gave everything you had. So I think that's super inspiring for anybody that might be young and aspiring footballer that could have that condition or something else, that you need to have that discipline and mindset like you did.
I think I tried to do the best that I could of with my situation, with the disease that I had. I tried to be as respectful that I could be towards my teammates, towards myself, towards the supporters, towards the people who follow us. I tried to be as respectful that I could be. They could. I always tried to have it in my head, even if I was playing in Olympiacos, in anderlecht, or whatever I was playing, always to behave myself towards the people. That the people could not say afterwards, Per was an asshole, or anything like that. That was I always tried to be friendly towards the supporters. If it so was a supporter who was saying how bad I was or how good I was or whatever, always try to listen to them and behave, because they have the right to do it, but you can't behave badly. And that I always try to do. So I think that's something that I'm very proud of, that I always had a positive mindset towards the people who try to talk to me. I never refused to talk to anyone. I've always been open to anyone. If it was Olympiacos supporters or Panathinaikos or AEK or Anderlecht or Bruges or whatever, I always took my time to talk to them. And I enjoy it, honestly. I enjoy them a lot.
Per, I wanted to ask you, you briefly brought up a little bit about your diet and eating. We ask every player that comes, because the diaspora Greeks, the Greeks that live outside of Greece, we have a joke about when players come to play in Greece, they go on what we call the souvlaki diet. But we were surprised when we heard from Matt Derbyshire and Stelios Giannakopoulos that actually Olympiacos had a kind of regimen for the players. I don't know the specifics and how strict it was, but more or less watching what you ate, making sure you were eating things that were good for you. What was your experience with that? What compared to the programs that you played for as well, other programs, Anderlecht or in Sweden? What was the dietary focus like for Olympiacos compared to them?
I don't remember so much. You always do weight, you always have to take your weight and things like that. But as you are training so much, you eat normally what you have. You have the souvlaki, you have the pita gyros and things like that, tzatziki and feta and things like that. You eat it. The main problem that I maybe had in that case instead, because it was so warm over there, so you eat a lot of ice cream because it was too warm. So that was the main problem sometimes, that you eat too much ice cream. That was the main problem, because you don't eat so much French fries and things like that, like you maybe do in the colder countries. So you eat more ice cream, and that can also be a problem.
Chips and mayonnaise in Belgium, and waffles, and in Greece the old pita gyro from time to time in your ice cream.
Yeah, it's a little bit different because it depends on the weather. It's the weather. In Sweden you eat pizza because that's cold over here. So, and in Greece you eat totally different. So you have to get used to it and try to eat what's the best for you, that you can produce what you're there for, to play soccer.
Right. Now, Per, I also wanted to ask, and because you have great insight as a player coming into Greece, what was the communication like? So you just come to Greece, you have all these different players from different nationalities on your team. What was it like to try and communicate with the other players? Was it difficult? Did everybody speak English, or did you have to learn some Greek? What was it like trying to communicate with other players?
Some of the players was very difficult because everyone didn't understand so good the English. One of my best friends was Christo Kondis. He's still one of my best friends. I still talk to him a lot. So, and he is Greek and he speaks very good English, so he can translate sometimes when I was there. So he helped me a lot, I have to say. Great guy. So it was not always easy, but if you have somebody who can translate for you and that you have confidence in, that you can explain your words to him and he translate it what it has to be, then it's okay. But you try to surround yourself by people that understand your language. That's why me and Christo Kondis becomes very good friends. Me and C. Elias becomes very good friends because we speak English. And then me and Christian Carambeu, because we speak French. So those are the three most close connections that I had with the players in Olympiacos. Then if you have Giovanni, that is one of your supporters. Giovanni, he speaks Brazilian. It was very difficult to speak Brazilian with Giovanni. So you have to translate via C. Elias in that case, or you have to try to find some Greek words. And as we were speaking bad Greek, both of us, so it's not always so easy.
I think it's something that we fans kind of take for granted, or we don't really consider when players come in. You have fans that just expect, hey, you come in, you need to be able to play and communicate. But a lot of times I don't think a lot of fans and even our own audience members, sometimes even us, the podcast hosts, we don't always remember that, hey, you might not be able to communicate. You have to find a way to communicate so that you can get on the same page. So that insight from you it's very interesting to hear about how you kind of get around those language barriers so that you can communicate with your teammates.
You try to find, people that understand all the language. Christo Kondis could speak, English and Greek. So If I want to say something to the people who doesn't understand English, yeah, I speak to him and he translates to the other ones. If I then now want to speak to the people, like Elias, Giovanni, Gabriel Alves was there. You have Luciano at that time. You have people who maybe didn't speak another language than their own. So you have to find people that you can translate to those people. But you get used to it. So you have a way of communication with everyone. And, some of the people you're closer to than others, like a normal work. That's normal. You have to function together. And the most important is that you can function on the field. And we function very well together. We respected each other. There was not many big problems in the team. We have respect for each other, and we did it very well. So that's the most important.
I think this is a super interesting conversation, and often you read in Greek newspapers that it's okay. They speak the universal language of football, and they don't need to communicate. They communicate with their feet. It's not quite that simple, but that's interesting. Yeah, Zé Elias obviously played for Inter Milan, so he had some experience abroad, and he spoke some English. But I didn't know he spoke English. But that's
he speak a little bit English, and I have still contact with him also. The three people that I have contact with, it's Condis, Christo Condis, Elias, and Karambeu. Those are the three people that I'm still, after 20 years, I have contact with.
Super. I think we can get into some fan questions now. We have we've got quite a few questions that came.
We do. We have a lot. But go so you can get Bill Clay, who is the first one to guess who the special guest is. He had a question for you. You kind of touched on this a little bit already, but he has a bit of a two-part question. The first part of the question was when you were in negotiations with Olympiacos and you were first arrived, what was Olympiacos's reputation in Europe back then when you played? And then what other clubs back then were kind of on the same level as Olympiacos that you would, I guess, compare at that time? And then if you could, how has the reputation of Olympiacos changed to the best of your knowledge to now? Has it gotten better, worse? What is your opinion?
I know at the time when we were playing, the most difficult thing that you can do is play against Olympiacos in European Cup games, because it was really impossible to win against them in Waka. Because you played against supporters with 75, 80,000 people. And at that time, you had a really good team at that time. And it was very difficult to win against them. It was not often that European Cup teams came to Waka and win. So I know that the atmosphere with the supporters at that time, I knew the reputation from Greek supporters. I know the reputation from how difficult it is, how hostile it is to players when you want to play against them. That I know. And then I have seen that, because they didn't show so much Greek football at that time in the rest of Europe. So I only saw them in Champions League, because Olympiacos was in Champions League every time. So every time you saw them playing against teams, and they always won at home, or they never lose at least. So that's difficult. How it is now, I think that, of course, now you have the pandemic with COVID-19. It's more easy to play against them because the supporters are not there. But Olympiacos needs the supporters. When Olympiacos has the supporters surrounding, it's really a 12th man or a 13th man.
Yeah.
Without the supporters, it's much easier to beat them. With the supporters at home and the stadium is full, it's really, really difficult to beat them, because you get a crowd behind you and they are pushing you forwards. And it's a very difficult place to go to. Even if you are the biggest team in Europe or in the world, you can't get anything for free because you're playing against Olympiacos and you're playing against the supporters. And honestly, the first time I played with Olympiacos, the first game that we did, because the preparation is rather long, so the most of the other competition has already started. But my first game was against Lyon in Champions League game, and we won that game with 2-1. We consider a late goal, I think. That's because of that late goal that we were eliminated from. Yeah, that cost us everything. If we shouldn't get that, we should have been qualified for next round in Champions League. And we deserve to be qualified. But anyway, the first time I went out on the field, I get the goosebumps, or what do you call it? Goosebumps.
Yep.
In English. Because the atmosphere was unbelievable. It was 80,000 people in Nuaka. And I never had such an atmosphere in all my life. I had goosebumps. So you can imagine if you come there as a visitor and you have to play against them, you say, what is this? you get frightened a little bit. Yeah, honestly, you get frightened a little bit. That was the impression that I had. To play against these supporters give you an extra dimension, honestly.
Before we go to the next question, I just want to piggyback off that a little bit, and you talked about that season with Lyon in the Champions League, and that bloody last game in France with the disallowed goal, the penalty that wasn't given, and we ended with 9 points. We ended with 9 points because we had that strong home record. It was Valencia.
We win 3 games.
Valencia, Lyon, and Herenveen, I think it was.
Yeah. So, we did one bad game, was away in Herenveen.
So this is what I want to ask you, because you rightly said that whatever club came to play against us, we had that reputation that you're going to come and play us in Greece, you're going to lose. Nobody can beat us on our home turf. The first team that beat us was Manchester United in the 2001 season. So I was a school kid at the time, and I remember my friends were giving me some stick the next day. It's you guys, you talked about your undefeated record. It's gone now. And I got some banter from my English friends. But what happened when you guys went to play away? Because, we didn't win an away game until Werder Bremen. I think 2006. I can't remember. But
it was late.
What was there something like, what happened when we went away to play? It's like it was.
I honestly, I don't know. There was something that happened with the team. I don't know. We were focused on the work that we had to do. We still were the same players, but it was completely. We behaved differently on the field. Why we did it, I don't know. I think that we needed the crowd so much behind us, even if we were playing in a away game. We always had a lot of supporters with us. Always, wherever we were going, we always have a fantastic supporters behind us. Always, but I don't know. I don't know why it was so difficult to produce the same way of playing in a away game. I don't know. Even that I thought that we did some good games. I think that the games in Lyon was not bad. We lose 1-0 is for sure.
We didn't deserve to lose that game.
No, but Lyon had a very good side at that time.
Yes,
they did. Very good team. And we played very well over there.
Yeah.
We lose 1-0, but...
I would tell you a story, Per. I think the last season you were there, you were with us, we played at Old Trafford, we lost 4-0. I think Zelias got a red card just before halftime.
But we should have scored before that.
I was at that game, and we were losing 4-0. And I think we were about 5,000 or 6,000 Greeks in Old Trafford. I remember after every goal, the United fans, they used to say, "You're not singing anymore." Yeah, they sang that after the 4th goal, and we kept going. And I still remember today that the whole stadium just got up and literally started clapping for the fans at 4-0. We just kept going. But that's side note for you and the listeners.
But that's what I mean. The supporters when you get the supporters behind you, it makes a big difference. And also in you played against one of the best teams in the world at that time, Manchester United. They were a great side. Before we get the red card, we had the better chances. We could have scored in Old Trafford. Even that they were better than us, I don't say anything. But we started the game not badly. Not like in Heerenveen, because Heerenveen we were crap. We were shit. Definitely we were shit. But here you played against one of the better teams and you get a red card after 30 minutes. That was one of the most difficult 60 minutes afterwards that I ever played. I promise you. I don't think I saw the ball. I didn't feel the ball afterwards, honestly.
So the next question kind of is still along the same lines here.
Yeah.
And this is from Olifan1925 on Twitter. And his question, I would love to know what happened with Bermudez in the locker room politics. How did the team go from beating Bayern Leverkusen 6-2 in the 2002 season to playing very poorly after that?
Honestly, I don't know, because at the same time we had a great team, and I don't know what happened afterwards. Maybe we got too much confidence because Bayern Leverkusen lost the final the year before, so maybe we thought that, yeah, if they went to the final last year, maybe we are the best teams in, so we were too confident. I don't know, honestly. I have no idea, and I'm still convinced that Bermudez could have done very good work in Olympiacos. For me, it's pity that he didn't get enough chances to do it, like he did in Boca,
right?
Because he was really a fantastic player, honestly. But I was not the trainer. I didn't make the team, so
Yeah.
I didn't make the selection. So yeah.
And by the way,
How
Per,
it is
if you have to go, just let us know.
No, I have time.
Perfect.
I'm at home, so it's
Okay.
okay. And they are still awake, so there's no problem.
Perfect.
Next question here that I see. You already told us your three favorite teammates. Would you
Yeah,
consider...
my best friends.
Yep.
Say like that.
Yep. So it was Karembe, Codis, and Zelias.
Zelias,
Were the three, weren't they?
Yeah.
There's some more questions here. Would you ever consider a role, an administrative role, or a coaching, scouting role at Olympiacos? Was a question that's been asked.
They have never asked me in that sense. I was talking a little bit slowly with Karembe a couple of years ago, but then I had a role in Anderlecht. So I was been working in Anderlecht for some years that I stopped 1 year ago now. And they haven't asked me anything to have a role or anything in Olympiacos. So I can't answer really. But I'm always open for everything. If there is a demand, or if they ask me anything, I listen to it, and then I will decide afterwards. It's always an honor to work with a team that you have been playing for, because you always have a relation in somehow in that way, instead of working with a team that you don't have been playing for. Because I always have a heart for one of the teams that I've been playing for. Of course, I've been playing a long time for Anderlecht, so that means that they have a big heart of me. But I have 3 fantastic years also in Olympiacos, where I've won, I think, 3 titles and 2 cups. So the only thing I lost was 1 cup final. So that's the only thing. So it's not bad in 3 years and win 5 titles.
We haven't had many Scandinavian players since you left. I think it's
Melberg.
Yeah.
Melberg.
Yeah. Obviously, we remember you. We remember Olaf Melberg, who did really well at the club. He's managing now, if I'm not mistaken. And most recently, Omar El Abdelawi, right back from Norway, played 6 years for us. But other than that, I can't think of many. Jimmy Durmaz, Swedish international, also played for us for a little bit.
1 year, I think. 1 year, I think.
Yeah.
He played.
Yeah, I wasn't a huge fan, I have to say, but he did okay, and now I think he's still playing in Turkey. Who do you consider kind of hot Swedish football talent at the moment? Who are like maybe some names that you can drop? Obviously, I think for everybody in the modern game, when you think of Sweden, everybody thinks about Ibra.
Of course. But you have to try to find the players before they become as big as Ibra. And I know that Olympiacos. I can't say what I'm talking with what we are talking about because we're talking about sometimes, and they have been interesting in some of the Swedish players before they went to other teams in Europe. So they are on the market. They are trying to find Swedish players.
There was a left back we were looking at from Sweden, actually, but I can't remember his name. I'll try and look it up.
Yeah, I can't mention any names because I'm talking in private with Carabou.
Sure.
So that's the respect that I have with him and the mutual respect. So what stays between me and him stays with us. So I'm sorry I can't mention anything.
No, of course we understand that completely. We did have another question. This is from one of our Greek Finnish listeners. His name is SZ at Fetanos on Twitter, and he wanted to know your opinion on Jari Litmanen, the former Finnish captain, national team captain, and also attacking midfielder. What were your opinions on him as a player?
Fantastic player. He was really fantastic. He was not the quickest one, but he was one of the quickest minds in that era because he was so quick with his head, much quicker than many of the other players. And the career that he did in Ajax was fantastic. He's the best Finnish player in all time. Like the Ibra of Sweden. Serious. He was the same in Finland.
He was a fantastic player, and I think you said it spot on. He wasn't the quickest, but any game you watched when he was on the field, even in the later stages of his career, he would just be in the right place. He was such a clever player. And there are players like him are a dying breed, I would say.
Yeah, definitely, because his mind is so much quicker than many of the other ones. Because if you could have his head in the way of the speed of some players, then you are one of the best players in the world, definitely. Because he had it all, and he has a good technique also, good controls, but the imagine and the way of playing and things like that, and the mindset that he had, and he scored a lot of goals and gave a many assists also. So fantastic player.
He was also one of those players that in today's game, you wouldn't know where to put him. It's like a second striker, but can play striker, can play number 10, could play on the wing. I don't know. He's one of those players that you wouldn't know where to put him.
I think that he maybe, is that what I'm saying? Our roles, what we had at that time, is really a role that started to disappear a little bit. It is like that. It's pity, but that's the way that football has advanced in today's football, and maybe in 5 years or in 10 years, maybe that position will come back, because in the 50s and the 60s, you were playing a different way of football, and then they started to come a 4-4-4, 4-4-2. And then they started 3-5-2 and 4-3-3, and now you play 3-4-3. And the systems are changing all the time. So the way of playing is going to completely change in 5 years' time. Then you're going to find a system that's completely different than today's soccer. football. I think so, because it's changing all the time.
Right. Per, I wanted to ask you, when it came to the team itself,
Yeah.
we always get a lot of questions from the listeners when we have former players on. They always want to know, did Olympiacos feel like a team or a family? Because you have players and managers that come in, or owners even, and they want to make it a family. Some treat it as just a team. What did you feel like during your 3 years there? Did Olympiacos feel like a team, or was it a family to you? And you can be completely honest. This is
yeah, but it if it feels like a family, a football club, it's a team.
Right.
It is a team, because a family is somebody that you have a relationship with outside football.
Right.
Once the training is finished, you have some of your friends, but you don't see them too much outside of the way when you're working together with them. That doesn't mean that you don't have the respect and understanding with them. That's completely different. But it's a difference between a family and a team.
Yes.
So Olympiacos, or all the other football teams that I've been playing, was a team. Even that we had a good understanding together with each other. We had a good, fantastic relationship together. But we were a team, a very good team.
I think we're coming to an end. I have maybe one or two more questions. Best memory at Olympiacos, worst memory at Olympiacos?
Best, I think, honestly, I know this. The worst was when I was playing like shit. That's I was so ashamed of myself at that time, because I was wondering, Per, how can you play so bad? First of all, I was really ashameful of a certain way. After I started very well in Olympiacos the first couple of months, and then I was playing so bad for, I think, nearly a year. I was playing shit, really shit. I was ashamed of myself. But I was very proud of myself also, because I was signing with the Anderlecht to come back to Anderlecht in January, or when I had still 6 months to play in Olympiacos. I signed because they didn't propose a new contract with me. So I said, I start again at 8. Okay, then I go back to Anderlecht, because they asked me a contract. And I think that many of the people in Greece or whatever thought that, yeah, now I have signed a new contract, he will let go. He will not care anything about us. But I'm very proud of the way that I reacted, and I played even better the last 6 months of the contract, when I even had signed a contract with a new team, and I finished on a high level. And at that time, I think that I got the respect from many people in Greece, because of how I produced my 6 last months, and that we become champion for the 7th time or 8th time in a row champion, and we break all the records that we have done before. So that was the proudest moment that I had in Greece, honestly.
I actually didn't remember that. I didn't remember that you'd signed a pre-contract.
No.
But like
Yeah.
you said, I mean, you said you spent 3 years at the club, and 1.5 of it you said wasn't great, and the rest of it was fantastic. But definitely, I remember your last 6 months quite well. Like, you were playing fantastic football, and definitely, like, seeing you leave, it was sad for all the fans, I think.
For me as well.
Absolutely. Like, I think all the fans had a huge amount of respect for you. And I can't remember if it was that season when they had the presentation of the cup in Piraeus in the port, and you came out with the camcorder.
Yeah. That was when we were champion. There was 100,000 people or something was over there, and that was one of the, I really felt respected, by the supporters, and that felt really, really well. I was really proud of myself that, oh, Per, you did a fantastic job. The people respect you. You have won titles, but mostly the people respect you. And that for me was the biggest win, because after 1.5 years, the first 1.5 years, I was criticized and rightly so. I don't say anything because I was playing bad, and I'm the first one to say it. I was understand that the people ask, why is he playing with us? Why did I buy him? He's crap. But the way that I was working the last 18 months, that I won them back, and that I was so respectful, that was the biggest success that I had. One of the biggest success that I had in my career, really, honestly, because I was working very hard to come back.
That's amazing, man.
Yeah.
I have one more question before I hand over to Ari, and
Yeah.
thank you so much for spending so much time with us. If there's one game you would play again,
The Rizoupoli game, Panathinaikos.
Okay, so you'd like to. Okay, so it's not a match that you necessarily lost and would like to play again, but you'd like to play that one again.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was so fantastic with everything. The
Excellent.
build up to the game and the atmosphere. We win 3-0, and I had a good game also. So that was it was fantastic.
That's excellent.
We were really on the moon, and yeah, it was nice.
That's excellent. I don't know if you like in Greece. That's still a controversial game. The opposite. Yeah. Oh, absolutely. Like if you talk to any Panathinaikos fan, they've talked to Karagounis, for example, and Karagounis said it's like impossible to play. They didn't have a warm up when they came out because the police couldn't guarantee their safety. Is what's being said. And I mean, anyway, it was a crazy game. It was hostile. And probably was a bit too much. I can understand, but anyway, it was interesting that your response was thinking in a positive game. So, I'd love to play that game again. And normally you ask that question and somebody thinks that game we lost, in Lyon, or that game in Deportivo, 2-1 up and then conceding that damn goal in the last minute. But no, super interesting that you went for
that, because that's a good memory. And the feeling that you had before, the build up, the importance of the game and things like that, it was a special game. And games like that, you always want to play them again because you had a good feeling before the game, during the game, and after the game. So if those games you always want to play again. Games that you lose, you try to erase them, so you didn't have that kind of feeling. So this game, Panathinaikos game in Rizoupoli, they're still talking, like you were saying just now, that they're still talking about them. And I still remember you can't remember all the games that you played,
of course,
but this game, and like we're talking before about the Ike game 4-3 in Waka, those are the games that you still remember, and those are the games that you still want to play again, because those are something that affect your way of thinking and the way of the supporters, how they were thinking about those games. And those games you still want to play.
No, yeah, it's very refreshing to hear, and it's very much you take a very positive outlook on all of this, and it's very refreshing to have somebody that has that outlook on their time and their career as a player. Now, I had 2 questions for you before we begin to wrap things up. We have a fair number of young listeners, some that are part of the Olympiacos academies here in the United States that listen, and we always like to have some questions that kind of will help guide them in their future careers if they seek to pursue college or professional careers. And the first question I had for you was, when you were, let's say, in poor form, in the beginning of your time at Olympiacos, when you said you weren't playing well, what were things that you did to help get out of that? What were things that really helped you turn from being in poor form and having a bad go of it to then becoming, winning the fans back and becoming a great, one of the best number 10s to play for us? What did you do? What work did you do off the field? How did you get your mindset correct so that you could get out of that rut?
I train extra. I always train extra. Do the basic things that stay longer on trainings, shoot more free kicks, give more passes. That's when you need friends. You stay with Carabou extra, you stay with Condis extra, you stay with C. Elias extra. You put a goalkeeper, you start shooting, you start spending more and more times on the field, that you need the basic things, that the confidence come back in the basic things that you need on the field. And after a while, the mindset in your head get those things, and you start to get the confidence back. And I train extra. That's what I was doing. It sounds maybe easy, but you spend hours and hours to train extra. I'm not a guy who's going to do more body weight, standing in the gym or something. No, I was training extra within football because that was my game. More passing, controls, shoots, free kicks, and things like that, to get the basic back, to get the confidence back. Having fun on the field. If you don't have fun on the football field, you can never produce a good spectator on the field. I was starting to enjoy it more and more. Even if I was playing bad, I tried to enjoy it more and more, to say, okay, Pep, today was shit, but we go on it tomorrow again and try to be better. And after a while, it becomes better. So that works for me. I don't say it will work for everyone, but for me, it helped, and I become better of it. I learn a lot from it. So.
Now, the second question I had for you is, and this is more general,
Okay.
what advice would you give to these younger listeners, the ones that have these aspirations, maybe even professional aspirations? What advice would you give to them? Maybe things that you did that you think really helped push your career, things that you did that you believe may have really helped when you initially got first noticed by Anderlecht. What advice do you have for them if they really want to be a professional football player? What would you tell yourself if you could go back in time and talk to yourself as a young footballer before you went to Anderlecht? What would you tell yourself?
Always, the most important is that you always have to have fun on the field, have an enormous pleasure, and always try to realize your goals, what you put up for yourself. Work hard. Always try to do your best. It's not because you do one bad game or two bad games that you're useless. Everyone comes in that, except if you're Messi or Ronaldo or something. They don't come in the way that we others, normal persons, come in. You always come in bad, but always believe in yourself, have fun on the field, and make the best of it. And always do the best that you can, that you don't say once when you stop your career and say, why didn't I do that? Why didn't I do that better or anything? That you don't have any regrets one time your career is stopping. Because having regrets afterwards, you will never be able of changing it. So always play your career like this, the last thing that you can do, because having regrets is the worst thing you can have. And I have definitely no regrets, because I did some bad games and I did some good games, and I never regret it afterwards. My decisions that I took coming to Olympiacos, I never regret it for one time. And I will always do the same choices that I did. And I'm very proud of it. So have fun, enjoy it, and never regret the choices that you do, because That's a part of your life. That's
And
what I should say. And I don't say that I am right or wrong, but
no,
that
of course.
worked for me, and I hope it will work for somebody else. So enjoy it, have fun. If you don't have fun, it will be difficult to produce a good career. I think that's. But the difference is in today's football, in our football, is that is so much more money in today's football than it was
Yeah.
in 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 our time. So I can understand it. It's more difficult maybe today to have so much fun that we had. I think so.
Yeah, and it's really important everything you said because there are a lot of similarities between what you said, what Matt Derbyshire said, and what Yanakopoulos said. When you were talking about getting out of your, out of your rut or your let's say your bad phase of play, what you said, what Yanakopoulos said, and what Matt Derbyshire said, all the same thing. You have to put in the work.
Mm,
Stelio called it sacrifice. You
yeah,
could have just ended training and gone home and relaxed, but you put the time in. You wanted to get better, and you put the extra time in. It's the same thing that Matt Derbyshire said. It's the same thing that Yanakopoulos said. So not just for the young listeners, but for all the listeners, if you want to have that success, you have to be willing to put the time in. You have to be willing to put the extra work in. And the second part is equally as important, if not more so. You have to love what you do.
yeah,
Stelio said the same thing. Matt Derbyshire said the same thing. He talked about how he's loving his football. And if you don't love what you do, it's going to be very difficult for you to want to you're not going to want to put the extra work in. When you love the game, when you love to play, when you love whatever it is that your work is, you want to do more with it. So if you don't love the game, you don't love playing it, it's a very difficult thing for you to succeed at. That's
yeah,
just the nature of it. Um, and that's very insightful. And I'm hoping that all the younger listeners, well, all the listeners in general, are beginning to see some of these similarities that all of the former players like yourself have said that were kind of keys to their success. Because we have maybe some different ways of putting it, but a lot of it comes down to those same two things: that hard work or sacrifice, and the passion, the enjoyment of the game. All of that is Both of those are very important if you want to ever even hope to become a professional footballer.
yeah. It's definitely it's so much sacrifice. When I was growing up, my mindset when I was young, and I'm talking young when I was 15, 16, 17, you know, I did a lot of sacrifice when the other ones was going out on discotheques and out drinking or having fun. What were I doing? I was training. I was training because I want to become a professional football. So I did a lot of sacrifice. The funny things that the mostly of the young people are doing, I couldn't do because I was planning my career. Uh, but I didn't regret it afterwards because I gained it on having fun on the field. That was my fun. So I would never regret the sacrifice that I was doing to have my career. I could do it over and over again because the most, the funniest thing that I could ever have was playing football. And if I could do it today when I'm 50, play football, I should sign it today again. And I would love it to be out on the football field to play a football game again, without any doubts. I could pay so much to do it again because that's the best thing there is, playing football. Honestly, there's nothing who is more fun than that. Not for me anyway.
Man,
Beautifully said.
it's been such a joy talking to you today.
My pleasure.
We could continue for a long time, I feel.
Absolutely.
But we'll let you get back to your family, get your rest. It's
Yeah,
getting late.
yeah,
Truly, it's been a fantastic discussion with you. Thank you so much for taking the
no,
time to speak with us. I think for us as Gate 7 International Podcast and for all the listeners, I think it's it's crystal clear that not only were you a model professional footballer, but just as a person, and from other discussions we've had with former footballers and with Stelio in particular, everybody says like Per's a great guy. And thank you so much, Per. Like if there's anything that, a message that you'd like to send to the listeners, to the fans, anything that you would like to promote via the podcast, like now's your opportunity.
I don't know what else I can say. I had a fantastic 3 years in Olympiacos, and I made so many good friends, and honestly, we even today when I go on vacation in Greece, we still feel at home because I still. And one of the things that is that what I like so much about it is that the 3 years meant so much, not only for me but also for my family. It meant so much for the people, and I love it. Olympiacos is one of my teams that I love so much. With Anderlecht and Olympiacos is my two teams that I love so much, and that I always will look backwards with so much pleasure and love. And I love to be back one day when it's possible to come back after this shit pandemic that we are living in. I would love to come back to Kariskaki and watch a game again. I would love it. I hope to be back there, and I would love to see you guys in one of the places in Greece, and to enjoy one good football game.
Oh, that would be wonderful. Could have
That
a
would be
frappe,
epic.
hang out. That would be fantastic. We would love that.
Yeah, I would love it too.
And our younger co-hosts, I'm sure they would love to hear your words of wisdom as well. They're going to hear it on recording. I wish they were born a little bit earlier so they could have witnessed your time at Olympiacos as well, or at least be, because they were probably 8 years old, maybe 7, 8 years old, probably not too aware of themselves back then. But I know they would have loved it. I know that they would have loved you as a player as well. And hopefully we can all travel soon. This will be done. The vaccines will be out, and this will go away, and we can all go back, travel. It'll be a lot easier. That would be a wonderful, wonderful time. Well, thank you again, Per, so much for joining us. It was an honor talking to you. You're a legend, and it was really wonderful to have you talk on the podcast and give us a lot of insight in your time, as well as some insight for the younger listeners. I really think they're going to appreciate all of that.
My pleasure. I enjoy it. You're two great guys. I had so much fun. Honestly.
Thanks a lot, man.
Talking about football. So
it's we've been blessed as fans to have seen some amazing players play for the club, and not just my generation, Ari's generation, the younger guys that you didn't get to meet today, that didn't get a chance to see you, but you're up there. You're up there with the greats that have played for the team, whether it's a Rivaldo or a Giovanni or a whoever like Zetterberg. For me, you're top, man. And I really genuinely enjoyed talking with you. And it's like we started this initiative, or actually Ari and the two other guys started this initiative of the podcast during the pandemic. I joined more recently, but it's something that we're growing together, and we're trying to connect Olympiacos fans across the world. We're trying to connect those diaspora Greeks with the Olympiacos fans in Greece, and it's slowly, it's picking up. It's snowballing, and it's been really great, like to get that reception from people like you, from people like Stelio, who I happen to know from a family connection. And no, man, I mean, we've tried contacting other former players as well. Obviously, like we know it's. I mean, people are busy, but like from the heart, like it's. Thank you so much for being quick and responding and coming on. Like I can't say that enough.
Yeah.
My pleasure. My pleasure.
It really is awesome. Yeah. The reason we did it, there's not a lot of English speaking Greek content for the Greek Super League. So we've all like, you know, for me as a, and Costa, I'm sure you feel the same. And then for Lambro, our other co-host, Peter, is not Greek at all. He has no Greek heritage whatsoever. He came to love Olympiacos. He went to university with Lambro, and we all went to the same university together. I was older than they were, of course. But Peter loved the game because he watched Olympiacos Panathinaikos game one time with Lambro, and then just when he saw the flares, he just loved the passion in the game, and he loved the environment, he loved the surrounding, and then became an Olympiacos supporter that had no ties to Greece whatsoever. And we all realized that this is out there. There's a lot of English speaking fans and people that would love Olympiacos if they just knew about it, if there was something for them to understand, because not everybody speaks Greek. It's not a common language. So
it's a difficult language.
Exactly. So that's why we did. And if you had told me when we first, the Sunday that Lambro and Peter were bugging me and they said, Adi, let's do this, come on, I was like, guys, no, who's gonna care? If you had told me back then that we were going to talk to you or Giannakopoulos or I would have said, yeah, right. I wouldn't have believed it for a second. So the whole thing is surreal for me. And for Costa, I know it is as well. Huge fans living through it. I never would have guessed that this day would come.